Hello. This is Ray and myself, and we're going to talk about the benefits that journaling has had on our lives. Um, Ray, I'm going to let you start. So when did you start journaling?
So I've always kept a diary. I mean, I want to say I was 12. I actually have like the first entry. I was 12 and I was like, it was a diary form, so it was like very much Dear Diary or in that kind of like way. It started off like as an emotional support. I think I had like a lot of emotions that I wasn't really able to express, or I mean, I grew up in a big household, so my emotions weren't always like made to feel very important, but I just had so many emotions. So it just kind of started out like journaling about like how I felt about things. If I'm being very honest, it was like, oh, my little sister was like the baby now, and I felt like all these things about that, and like just like really emotionally supportive throughout my like 13 and adolescent years, like just somewhere I can go and kind of pour into. And I've been doing it ever since. So now I'm 30, so 18 years of diary journaling. Yeah, what about you?
That's very impressive. I feel like very similar to you, and I think, with ADHD, we do a lot of, I feel like for me, we have a lot of thoughts too, so I feel like writing is a way to process those because due to all the extra thoughts in our head, like for me, writing things down has always been important. And then it allows me to kind of develop self-awareness. I will say that when I was in first grade, my mom did have a diary that she wrote for me. Um, so at the end of the night, she would like be like, Elise, what happened today? And I would tell her. And then for like until I was probably through high school, I randomly kept journals. Some of them I've lost, some of them I've held on to, and I would like write letters to myself too. I will say that one time I think I was 13, my friend's little brother and my sister loved to a challenge, and she'd always steal my diary and read it. And yeah, one time she read it with my friend's little brother, which is so fun. Good memories. But, that like I would try to find new ways to hide it. And then I think in college I would write letters um to my future self. Um and kind of be like, at least this is where you are, because I wanted to write to I was like, yeah, like I'm going through this right now. I'd write letters to people in the future. Um which was my unique way. Maybe it's my ADHD way of journaling. I had to do it differently. Where I was like, oh, I'm gonna write letters to future people. But the last, I believe when I was doing ADHD coaching training, I started a blog and that got me through some really difficult times. And for me, it was a way to like process what I was going through. So it's weird. Throughout my life, I've done like different types of journals, and sometimes I still come across ones that I've forgotten that I wrote. So I feel like you're very organized, which I think is great because you can like look through. I'm kind of skipping to the next question, that I had on my list, how do we journal? But I've kind of told you some of the different ways that I journal. Like what are some of the different ways? Because they're like you can do a photograph journal, you can do an online journal. Like what are some of the ways that you've journaled?
Um, so yeah, when we're thinking about like the different ways, I definitely when I was younger, I think I had two journals when I first started. One was like an update of like what was
Yeah,
going on in my life, and one was like my emotional sanctuary where I went to like, be
yeah.
like sad or happy or like, mostly it was on the other end of things. Funny enough with journaling, I'm not always writing so much when I'm like in a positive space. Um, in adolescence, I think I found like I remember me and my cousins did like a summer journal and we just like all the core memories that we made that summer, we like wrote a little story about it. Um, I think in adolescence, I like was kind of here and there. I was a little nervous to have like written proof. So if I did if I did write too much, I'd like hide it under
Yeah.
my mattress or things. I'm not sure if anybody's ever read them. They've never like brought it up to me, but I'm sure it wasn't the best hiding. So maybe they just didn't think anything was interesting enough to bring up to me.
But little
Um,
sisters have their way, gotta be careful.
In college, I actually transitioned to like a almost like an everyday kind of notebook. I was going through like a really, college age
Yeah.
exploratory, this is what the world is, and like going to college. So I would bring it to class, and if I thought any of the lessons were like really personally or like spiritually connected to my life, I would like make note of it in that other journal. I remember I went through a phase where I wanted to cut out all MGO, NGO, uh,
Oh, I
the
know what you're talking about.
food.
It's that multi-glucose
Yeah,
something
when I just
middle.
found out like, oh, are we being poisoned? And like,
MGOs. Yeah.
is all the companies that we like buy clothing from using child labor? So I wrote down a list of all the companies and like the foods. Turns out it's everything that we were using. So that was hard to cut that out. But um, so for like college aged, I think it kind of turned into more of like a note keeping. And then when I traveled, I started like writing down like entries from different places that I traveled. And then when I moved to London, I think I really moved back into like journaling as like a best friend, like journaling as a mirror, like just kind of keeping myself grounded throughout my time there because I separated from everyone that I knew. So it was like really a place for me to connect to myself. But I was in a very happy place. So for the most part, it was like very poetic. I stopped like keeping time, like dates. So it was always like free flowing. I used different like pens and colors. I would doodle between the pages. Like it was very like euphoric. And then in like darker times, I like you can like
I
definitely
like that.
tell like the different phases of life by like the pen that I'm using, the handwriting. One of my favorite types of journaling, I learned from Julia Cameron. It's morning pages.
Yeah.
So really, really like good book about reconnecting spirituality and creativity. But she talks about doing two specific things to like help connect to your own spiritual health. And I did that when I came back from London. I think I was like lost in my life. And it was recommended that we journal 3 pages in the morning, like as soon as you wake up. I think I actually have a YouTube video about it. But 3 pages as soon as you wake up, and it was like streamlined journaling, like pure consciousness. So it doesn't matter what you're saying. It was just like writing for the 3 pages. And at the end of the 3 pages, I always found myself like thanking God, being grateful. But often at the beginning of the 3 pages, I was like, I woke up hating myself again. Like the morning, like it's so hard to wake up and see the room and like see how did I end up here? Like, what is my life? And then it would kind of take me through the 3 pages. And by the end of it, I always ended up like, thank God for my
Yeah.
life. Always felt like I did connect because it was always streamlined. Like it got all the nonsense out. I think it was
I
like
feel like
more.
society like puts all these like we start out like really in our authentic selves and then yeah, like when you think about it, all the negative marketing and messages kind of like I feel like journaling kind of takes out those toxins.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, unrelated, but I just saw like a study on schizophrenia and like the voices, and I think we've talked about this in different contexts, but like the different voices that people
Oh yeah.
who are entering or experiencing psychosis, especially when we were working together at the crisis house,
Yeah.
they were always, not always, but for the most part, like self-deprecating, like go kill yourself, kill other people.
Yeah.
Like it was always just so vicious, violent,
Yeah.
and destructive. And I was like, what is the biological, like evolutionary cause of this? And then I found out today that US comparative to like India
Oh
or
yeah, I've read that study. Yeah.
somewhere else, um, their voices
We're
are
positive.
often more positive, they're joking, they're kind of like poking fun, whereas our voices are like literally go kill yourself. There's a knife,
Yeah.
like someone's watching you, paranoia. So very cultural.
Oh yeah. No, because yeah, you would see in their voices how obvious it was that it was coming from because when you think about it, our brain is like a sponge, right? And we're just soaking up all these messages. And like, I feel like with schizophrenia, like you're kind of hearing it in a different way. Like you're hearing it as a voice that's outside your head, but we still, even without schizophrenia, we're still internalizing those messages that are so negative. And I interestingly, I told you about this like 2 years ago. I did a dream journal where I was like, I had this bad insomnia, and I did this stream of consciousness journal where I was like writing down everything in my head to see where the root of it came from.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of it like was from like messaging. Like I think one of them was like, um, yeah, like it one of them was like, yeah, like the about appearance, or like one of them was about like worth, but then I can see how that came from like the shows that I was watching, or like what I was, or like feelings of not being good enough. And I feel like this kind of goes into the next one, but like the benefits of journaling for me is like, wow, like I'm saying so many mean things about myself. It's because yeah, like when you write it down, you're just like, wow, that's so mean. But like you
Hmm.
don't always, when it's in your head, like you don't see how some of the thoughts you have are dysfunctional, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely like recognizing when I was doing the morning pages, like, wow, I really wake up in the morning hating
Yeah.
myself. Like, and I think it was definitely like situational for like I had just moved back home. I felt very like, oh my God, like where did I go wrong in my
Yeah.
life to have made such a big life and then end up back in my childhood bedroom.
Yeah.
So that was its own thing. And then like, oh, my skin's bad, my hair's not
Yeah.
growing, like I have no money, like what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Um, Getting all of those thoughts that honestly were just racking around my brain anyway, getting that out on paper, like they exist. It's already there. I don't need to think about it anymore. Getting it out
It's
and
like
then being
cleaning.
able to like leave it there and go about your day. And like you don't have to worry about it because you're already worried about it. Like you have
Yep.
proof you're already worried about it. And one of the things about the morning pages was like you weren't supposed to reread your writing. I think it was like 6 weeks, but really it was like don't ever read it. You don't have to. But they said if you're going to, because we're humans, we want to know about ourselves, wait at least 6 weeks so that you're not going back to judge yourself, or you're when you're streamline writing, you're not judging yourself in the future already. So when I did go back, I noticed like, oh, I did feel like there was a steady progression that I was getting better because of this writing and because I was able to, I had to force myself to write 3 pages. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, well, today I'm going to do this and this. And so I'd make like a mental plan for the day, even just in my streamline writing. And then I started to like accomplish more and feel like, okay, I'm getting things done. And then my writing shifted to like, okay, how many things did I do today? So I felt like, oh, I'm productive. And that's kind of where I'm at now is like kind of keeping track of those things. The benefits of journaling, I mean, to me personally have been like there's no amount of like therapy for sure that's
Yeah.
helped me in the same way. It is like self-awareness, self-knowledge. Like nobody in the whole world can be as critical to me as I have been to myself.
Yeah.
Actually, like is very empowering to be able to say like I've had those thoughts already about myself. I've said those things to myself and I've been able to like move past it and love myself regardless and from it. Like it's really self-awareness so that nobody can tell you something that you don't already know about yourself,
Yeah.
like point out something and you don't even, you're like, oh, that's not me. You
Yeah.
can acknowledge and say, yeah, that is me. But I love that about
Or
like
maybe it's like a
growing.
voice, a negative voice from your past. It like you feel like it's you, but you're like, oh wait, like that's that teacher, or that's like you can
Yeah.
identify maybe the voices that shouldn't be there. They're like, oh, like where did that? You can be like, where did this come from?
Yeah. Where did it come
Yeah.
from? There's so many journaling exercises, especially within psychology, where you can really talk to like the shadow self. I think
Yeah.
shadow work has been really good for me with journaling, like talking to those negative experiences, talking to like, I think one time I did like a exercise um, where I was having a conversation with my like childhood
Yeah.
trauma. And I was like kind of unmasking it.
Yeah.
And it was actually just like a scared, unloved child. You know, that's what and how it was showing up in my life, when it was showing up in my life.
Yeah.
Um, so the benefits for me, like across my whole life, it's been on par with like yoga, and yoga
Yeah.
to me has also saved
Well,
my
it's
life.
mindfulness. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is like a core to who I am, and it's something that is so deeply personal that no one else can ever really understand it. No one reads my journals,
Yeah.
um, but it's made me so much of who I am. So,
I feel like for me, I've done like, because yeah, with ADHD, I get bored and I do different types. I feel like for me, um, one of the things that helped me was I did a PMS or I have PMDD, which is severe PMS. But I didn't realize I had PMDD until I did the PMS journals. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm doing all these things and sending emails on like the days before my period and like keeping a period journal. I feel like as a woman, like if you have a period, you should, especially if you have ADHD or autism, because you're more likely to have severe PMS. Like I didn't have any self-awareness of my cycle. And I feel like because your symptoms do change in severity, like keeping a PMS journal doesn't mean you have to keep it forever, but like I kept it for, I kind of stopped a couple months ago, but I need to start it up. But yeah, it was very helpful to be like, okay, like I'm really anxious today. Like, oh, I'm 3 days before my period. Maybe I shouldn't. I had a very, yeah, it's funny because I would spend like a lot of money. Like I would make myself feel better through online shopping and I'd be like, you spent a lot of money. You spend a lot of money every month the day before your period. And I'm like, I told my sisters, like, don't let me I forbid, like, my journaling made me be like, okay, you're not allowed to buy anything the week of your period. And then for me, like, for a while, and I was like, oh, I need to go back to doing this. I did a positivity journal because, like, yeah, I feel like with ADHD, you're more likely to forget the positive things that you do. So like every week I would do like what are 5 good things that happened to me? And then I would look at that and type it at the end of the week. And then at the end of every month, I would, because this was on my blog, I would copy and paste all the week positive things and like add them together and be like, actually, that's like a lot of positive things. And I feel like for me, I took a break from my blog and now I'm just doing a notebook because I get bored. But um also this is random. I feel like for me, like I remember I came across this middle school post and it was like really dark for 14-year-old Elise. And I was like, life is horrible. Like nobody likes me. But then I was like, I had some of my happiest years after middle school. And like looking back on like journals where I had really difficult times showed me some of the patterns that I could use to get myself out, but also like, okay, that dark period ended and that means that like I can get out of this one. So it's like proof to myself, like, yeah, you've been in holes but you can climb out and it gives
mhm,
you tips to climb out of them.
definitely, I definitely reckon like connect to that
Yeah.
the reading past that like entries where you're like really negative to yourself, or like you're in a really dark place for like a month or 2 months, or like, whatever period of time you're in a dark place, and it's almost like embarrassing
Yeah.
to read, like
Or too
but
early, it's thought the world would hit. But yeah.
yeah, but definitely I feel like it's also a universal experience, like it's a very human
Yeah.
experience. When we talk about journaling, I think as we move on to like the next question, how to start journaling, I think there's kind of a misconception that journaling should
Yeah.
just be about positivity, that we should also just be writing like what we're grateful for and like all of these like very
Yeah.
uplifting elements. Like
I've had some
there's,
rage journals too, where I'm
yeah,
like,
I mean, I don't know what I would do if I wasn't
yeah,
able to go to my journal and be like, I hate the world today, like um everyone sucks and I'm mad
yeah,
at this person and this is exactly why I'm
yeah,
mad. Like, it's just such a cathartic experience getting out like all of those parts of yourself.
yeah.
Because positivity is something that gratefully like we get to
As
enjoy.
women, we need a way to be like, I'm angry. Because I feel like journaling is like women, we're like, oh, we're always happy. And like, I feel like with ADHD, there's pressure, but I feel like women were expected to be like Disney princesses. We're like, oh, a brick fell on my foot, but it brought me joy. Like, No, like
funny.
journaling, I've
But,
been like, I
um,
let out my full rage and then I feel less angry towards it.
yeah, when I was in high school, me and my like childhood best friend,
Yeah.
we had like a binder,
Yeah.
like we'd write letters back and forth to each other.
Oh, that's cute.
And I think everyone thought it was like a burn book, like we were talking shit about everybody. Like I think there's a lot of preconceptions about the kind of
Yeah.
person, like the kind of people we were, that we were like thinking about others negatively. Like we
Yeah.
honestly, we were so self-absorbed and like so insecure that most of the journals were like, oh, like I hate the literally I
Yeah.
hate the work today, or like I like don't want to be in school, like
Yeah.
I want to be here right now, like I can't wait until we can leave. Like everyone thought it was like we were talking about them, but
Yeah.
really it's always like my clothes suck today and like,
Yeah.
very insecure. Funny enough though, it did get out at one point, like the entries.
Journals do get out. My
One
sister
girl
met.
would get
Yeah.
mad because we made like some comment about
Yeah.
her, but it wasn't even like to us, we just made comments about people all the time. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, but that kind of got out and she was mad about that. But other than that, like even having that relational communication, when I worked in residential for adolescents, when we had like primary residence, and when we first got paired up, we had a shared journal. And so when I wasn't on shift, or when they were like late at night and they wanted to talk to someone, or like kind of communicate what was going on, but maybe didn't have like the verbal vocabulary, they'd
Yeah.
be able to write it down, and then we'd read it, and then we'd write them a note, and then we'd give it back. And it was this really like deeply bonding experience with like having a connection.
Yeah.
Of course, like as all things, you can't have nice things because somebody took it too far, and and then we had to stop doing that. But it was really like a definitely a bonding experience, like having that written form of communication, because like we talked about, like there's so many emotional experiences that like yes, we do want to share it with someone, but when does the time really come up? And like we're not even feeling that way
Yeah.
when we're with them, but like whenever we're not with them, we're feeling like overwhelmed with this feeling. So how do we even communicate it to someone when it's like it's only something we feel in private, you know? So
Yeah.
I think when
That
we talk
reminds
about
me of girls' bathroom stalls. I don't know, like what men do in their bath, like, but girls will journal on the walls of the bathroom. Like I remember, like in college and in high school and in those, yeah, like I would like to. It was like reading every time I went to the bathroom stall, like a new. And I added some. It's like you add like a new motivational phrase, or like you would write things, and yeah, like I love the way I like the community journal, although sometimes someone draws something inappropriate and then you have to stop it. But like, yeah, like people write on booths at tables and in trees. I feel like written communication is so important. Like I keep the letters from my friends. Like we had like a end of the year sorority journal and we all wrote in the attic. It's like, I feel like we need to write more letters to each other. Like with my ADHD coach during hard times, like I'll journal through email. Because like I tell her, I was like, I can't say this in person. Like I'd rather say it through words. And I feel like as powerful as a spoken language is, like even if you're writing it on a pole or a bathroom stall or a desk or a journal or like a social media account, like my blog, I didn't publicize, but I left open because I'm like, maybe someone in the universe will find it. And sometimes I'd see people from Uzbekistan or like China look at it and they'd be like, oh, like somebody read my words today and maybe it was hopeful. But yeah, I really like that you brought up the community aspect because, there's a lot of anonymous journaling that goes on, but it's like journaling could be writing emotional, motivational phrase on a don't vandalize, but like leaving a note for someone that's anonymous. Like sometimes I found like positive letters just like, you know, on the floor or something. Or yeah, people leave like stuff on the light poles, stickers. Yeah,
Mhm.
like how do you want to track your life? And like journaling doesn't have to be an individual hobby. Like you journaled with your friend in high school, and I feel like for me, I journal with my ADHD coach. It's like sometimes maybe if you have a hard time journaling on your own, like maybe I've had like group journaling spaces on Facebook where I have like a page and I've had six people and we all journal to each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, like community journaling can be very powerful. It doesn't
Mhm.
always have to be a solo activity, it could be.
And I kind of think that's what the internet is now. I think
Yeah,
we're all, especially like blog spaces,
yeah,
like connecting to people through things like the things people say on the internet are definitely not things they probably have a lot of pride or like not everybody can say the things that they say online.
yeah.
I feel like even like hate comments, that kind of thing, like
Be nice. Use ethics.
those those kind of comments, like that's a form of journaling. It's expressing the internal world that you're experiencing that might not even like connect to your external world. I think I've read about something like online KKK members actually
Yeah,
present like very liberal in person, like
yeah,
actually masking like their true identity, and they're able to be like
yeah,
their self on the internet because that's their form of like internal representation. So I think about that with like anonymous people, like Reddit forums where you're telling like this long story and people are connecting and you're like, oh my
yeah.
God,
Sometimes it's
like
positive.
you have the same issue that I have. Yeah, so and then it also makes me think like the difference between like handwritten work
Hmm.
and I did like a lot of narrative study
Yeah,
in my master's program about the importance, but like the significance of writing in like hand thought to hand, and how that is a form of like almost verbal expression for your
yeah.
body. Like you do feel like you're verbalizing it in the same way that like you would be if you were just to talk it versus like typing because you don't have the same tactile experience and you're not like hand to thought, like hand to letter writing. So all things to think about. Like if you
Tattoos.
want
That's
to
like a body journal.
verbalize it, if you want to like talk to chat, text it, whatever, tech or type it or write it, all those things.
But I feel like, and also, I think it is a beautiful, I treasure like none of my family kept journals that I found, but like I have some letters from both sides, and I feel like you like, yeah, like your journals, your great granddaughter could read them, or your great grandson. It's like your journals, maybe once you've passed, it's your writing will never die. You know, it's like something that you keep within your family that becomes very treasured and invaluable. And it's
Yeah.
like a piece of yourself you leave behind for future generations.
And definitely for your future self. I mean,
Yeah.
being able to read back to my 12-year-old self is like a gift that like nothing else could give
Yeah.
me. I mean, obviously now we have like video recording, but when I was 12, that wasn't really the thing to do. And I wouldn't be video recording and saying the things I said
We're
to my
journaling
12.
right now,
Yeah,
technically,
in a form, right?
in a
Different form.
form. Yeah.
Um, Definitely like for the future and for the present and for the past. Um, Journaling is really, I mean, I always find it interesting. Like, how would you say how to start to journal?
You know, I would not, and I feel like what prevents a lot of people from journaling thinks that they need to buy a cute diary and be like, today is, April the 18th, dear Elise. I think you can journal. I like stream of consciousness journaling, and I feel like my journals have evolved. Like I have paper journals, like I've stopped the blog temporarily to do a like a to-do list journal. I feel like don't you can start now by putting a sticker. I mean, you could do a sticker journal. I love stickers. Just like do it, allow yourself to evolve, allow yourself to take breaks if you need to. Um, and like don't feel like it has to stay a particular type of form. Some people are really good at that, but for me, I'm just like, yeah, with my PMS journal and like my dream journals, it's like make sure like you can I feel like some people burn their journals after like burn a letter after reading. Some people want
Mhm.
to give it to the universe. I feel like don't constrict yourself and do it in the easiest way possible and it will grow from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. When people like ask how to start journals or like they feel like they don't journal and they're not like, I think it's also like an innate, like, do you want to journal? Like, is this the
Yeah.
way that you communicate or have the ability to communicate, it's definitely something everyone should try. Maybe it isn't for
Yeah.
everybody, but I found that especially in the therapeutic setting, some people will put themselves like, oh, I need to journal every
Yeah.
morning or every night, and like I have to write three things, and I'm like,
Intuitive. Yeah.
yeah, it's like for me, I would never put myself on like a rigid no.
No, I've never done that.
Honestly, I'll give myself like, oh, it's been 3 months since I've had an entry. Like, I wonder what that is. And then I'm like, oh, it's because of this, because I'm so happy, or because I'm so like caught up with something else, or other people are around me, so I don't have the time at night. Like, it's a free flow. It's like a conversation with yourself. I think like similar to like a religion,
Yeah.
spirituality, connection to um like a higher power, like there's religion and you can do it in a rigid
Yeah.
way, follow the rules. But that doesn't really mean that you have a connection and
Yeah.
a
You want to have
relationship
a personal relationship with God
God,
or higher
right?
power.
So
Yeah.
this is like you can do it in a rigid way and you can like, okay, I'm grateful for this today and I'm grateful for this. Or you can actually choose to have a relationship with yourself and like have a dialogue with like what's going on inside of yourself. And I think that that's way more important and beneficial than just like following any set of
Yeah.
rules.
You don't want to just check the box because then if your heart's not in it,
Then what are you doing?
then it's not important to you. Like, you know,
Mhm.
there were a lot of times where I was only into journaling if I was really angry or really sad and I felt like I couldn't express it. And that's the only time I journaled was like rage and like
Mhm.
sadness, and that's because I felt like I couldn't express it any other way. And sometimes I was more regular, but I didn't hold myself to a time. But I think that's right. I feel like as we close out, um, yeah, think about what ways in your life do you want to journal if you want to journal right now? Like maybe you don't want to journal alone. Maybe I think it's cool to have like a journal partner. Like, yeah, it reminds me of like your story or like, it's maybe like a personal Reddit or maybe using what do you call it? Speech to chat. Like maybe you have a conversation and it records it for you rather than because some people don't like writing. So I'm like, you could do like video chat or what do you call it? Dictation.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I feel like any closing words.
Um, I'd say it's like narrative therapy. It's the story you tell yourself about
Yeah,
your life that you can kind of go back to later on. And once you do it, like you'll always be grateful to have that piece of yourself, like in space and time.
yeah. Who knows?
So,
Maybe aliens 3,000 years from now could come across it and you could be a history book. That's what I was like, aliens, like 5,000 years from now, they could be like dusting off and be like, oh,
oh,
we
she's
have to build a civilization
so
around
happy.
this.
Like, she got so much done
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, highly recommend.
Yep. Bye. We're closing the journal entry today.